Zombie Bill Murray has taken over the City of God. We have got to get the Ghostbusters on this and call them his... Oh wait, that's right. This is Movie Night. Hello and welcome to Movie Night, YouTube's weekly interactive DVD review show. I'm your host, Jonathan Paula. Our first film tonight is the most successful zombie film in history, and it was released just last week on DVD. Zombieland, starring Woody Harrelson, Jesse Eisenberg, and Emma Stone, was released last October to very positive reviews. It's set in a post-apocalyptic America where mad cow disease has turned everyone into zombies, and they've overrun the country. Of course, a small group of survivors have banded together, and they're traveling to the West Coast. And they're also looking for Twinkies along the way. All of our lead actors portray these survivors with just the right amount of comedy and drama in their roles to quickly create some very likable and memorable characters for all of us to root for. Which is important considering the main foursome of characters are almost the only people in the entire 81-minute film that have more than a couple of speaking lines. The plot moves along by way of voiceover narration provided by Eisenberg doing his best Michael Cera impression, who explains to the audience the many rules required to stay alive in Zombieland. These rules are presented in 3D kinetic typography, seamlessly and humorously integrated into the narrative whenever one of the rules is relevant. It makes for a few great laughs and some outstanding special effects work. The budding love story between Eisenberg and Stone is something you see coming from the second we're introduced to her character, but their on-screen chemistry is no less entertaining because of it. The makeup and effects with the zombies will delight even the most hardcore fans of the genre, who may have otherwise been put off by a, quote, comedy film. In reality, I found myself enjoying the blood, gore, and zombie murders in this movie almost more than a regular horror film. The movie throws in quite a few nice surprises, including an epic cameo by Bill Murray pretending to be a zombie, so that he can still go to the golf course without being bothered by anybody. Although this movie probably isn't going to win any awards, or really wow you, it does do a great job of delivering exactly what is advertised, some funny comedy and some great zombie gore. And while the plot isn't anything special, the endearing characters will keep you invested in this film until the very end. I only wish the ending had a bit more closure to it myself. Anyway, that's what I thought about the film Zombieland. Now let's see what you had to say about the zombie comedy in the YouTube comments. Muscling Blue wrote, I thought it was very refreshing in that while it contained your classic zombie elements, it was far from anything like your typical run-of-the-mill zombie flick. Rasheen wrote, Zombieland had me laughing from start to finish. Predictable or not, it's entertaining until the credits roll. 9 out of 10. Okay, now that we've heard from the comments, let's fire up the Rate-O-Matic to see how we both ranked Zombieland. Okay, I scored it a great. I loved the characters and the comedic take on the zombie apocalypse was very well done. But at the end of the day, I felt that nothing really impressed me. You guys, on the other hand, showed no discretion at all, went all out with your rating, gave it a perfect 10, an amazing score. Many of you praising Bill Murray's amazing cameo in this film as your favorite part. Our second film tonight is 2002's City of God. This foreign film, firmly entrenched in the top 20 highest rated films on IMDb, is the true story of two boys growing up in the violent City of God neighborhood outside of Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. One becomes a photographer, the other boy becomes a murderous drug dealer. City of God, which is entirely in English subtitles, feels a lot like a Portuguese version of Scorsese's Goodfellas, except with the delusional and hopeless children rather than Ray Liotta and Robert De Niro. Perhaps it was because of the subtitles, or because of all the little Brazilian kids looked the same to me, or perhaps it was because of all the non-linear and sporadic narrative, but I found myself struggling to follow the complicated plot and character paths for most of the first half of this film. When things finally settled in, and after most of the supporting cast had been killed off, I was actually pleasantly surprised by City of God, which finally started to come into its own, rather than just being a Godfather-esque cut scenes of people being murdered type of a movie. The immensely large cast of local amateurs did a terrific job here, but none of them really stood out, and I found it difficult to really connect to any of the main characters. I will say this though, the cinematography and editing in this film were absolutely outstanding, keeping things moving at a blistering pace all while maintaining a very stylized, almost music video look to some of the shots. The dirty slums of Brazil are portrayed with gritty and striking realism that really immerses you in the sights and sounds of this hellish neighborhood. And although this film and all of its characters are closely based on a true story, I couldn't help but feel like it was a poor man's version of a much better gangster film that had come before. Although beautifully shot, written, and acted, I quite honestly wasn't that impressed with City of God. I'd go so far as to say I was even bored at times. Perhaps it was because I set myself up for some amazing film, or because the subtitles kept me distant from sympathizing with any of the characters, but I really didn't think that this movie was anything special. That being said, however, I did really enjoy the film, especially the last hour, and I can certainly appreciate for what it was trying to accomplish, so it wins back some points for me there. Anyway, that's what I thought of City of God. Now let's see what you had to say in the YouTube comments. Sandyman002 wrote, "A masterpiece of cinema, a cast of unknowns, but they can act better than most big Hollywood A-listers. A lot of realistic, gritty drama and violence, probably the best foreign film of the noughties. 10 out of 10. Bostonorama wrote, "City of God was a shockingly realistic movie. It really opened my eyes to the slum violence in Brazil. The plot was captivating and it always kept me on my toes. I was reluctant to watch it at first, but I was impressed with what I found after a friend convinced me to watch it. 8 out of 10. Alright, let's fire up the Ratomatic and see how City of God fared. I scored it a 6, you guys scored it a 7. My opinions on this film were certainly mixed. There were aspects of this movie I really enjoyed and thought were quite deserving of a higher rating, while at other times I found myself disconnected and uninterested with the plot. I end up giving it a good ranking. Your views were just as mixed as mine, and many of you either flat out hated this movie or you absolutely loved it, praising the shockingly realistic portrayal of the slum life in Brazil, scoring it a much higher 10. It averaged out to a cool. Moving forward now, let's take a look at some movies currently playing in theaters with your tweet critiques. Rogilo Q wrote, "Valentine's Day rocked. Great love movie from all angles, and I do mean all. I give it a 7 out of 10. Great date movie." Crashing Success tweeted, "Dear John, very emotional, get drawn into the movie very quickly and can follow the characters easily. 9 out of 10. Remember, if you're going to the theater this weekend, submit your review via Twitter and have it featured on an upcoming tweet critique." That does it for this week's movies. Now let's take a look at the films we'll be watching for next episode. Couples Retreat is a vacation-inspired comedy film starring Vince Vaughn that was released last October to large box office success despite the negative reviews. And Felon is a smaller movie that slipped through the cracks in 2008. It's a Shawshank Redemption-esque movie about a man unjustly sent to maximum security prison and about his struggles trying to get back out to the free world. Until next time, I hope you get a chance to buy, rent, or download these two films. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about them in the comments below. Until then, my name is Jonathan Paula. Thank you for joining me on another episode of Movie Night. Have a good one.